Welcome to Philo.Wsophical Matter Podcast, where we discuss the intersectionalities of growth mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship, and impact. I have an amazing guest. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Philo.Wsophical Matter Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lo, the Wealth and Wellness Strategist. I have a dynamic, multifaceted businesswoman here today by the name of Ashley Clarke. She is an entrepreneur. She's a leader. She's a CPA, a fitness trainer. And then to add to that, she is a published author. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for being here. Tell me a little bit more about yourself that I didn't add in there.
Wow. So multifaceted Renaissance woman, that's definitely kind of my lane. I have always done a lot of things, sometimes for good, sometimes for not, but
Okay.
but musician is another.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Play
Okay.
trombone and bass guitar.
Nice. Okay. Hidden talent. Okay. Do you get to do any music now?
Not as much as I would like. I stopped playing trombone out of the courtesy of my neighbors when I was in apartment living.
Okay.
So then that's when I started teaching myself how to play bass guitar. I do it more for hobby now, not really for anything other than that. It's just a way for me to release and still have that creative mind, but not having to monetize it.
Okay. Good deal. So what do you think about being a multifaceted person? You know, sometimes people who are not multifaceted may try to exert guilt on you for like doing this or, you know, diversifying what you do. How do you feel about it as you tap into all of your gifts?
Yeah. I think it helps you to be better in all areas and aspects that you operate in.
Okay.
If you're only sticking in one lane constantly, then you just have that limited experience to tap into, that limited frame of mind, similar to travel. If you've never traveled, in multiple places, different countries, things of that nature, your view is just your view that you are currently in. So
Absolutely.
when you're able to tap into different skill sets, it can bring about different frame of thought.
Gotcha. That's really good. So how do you navigate your different talents and skill sets? Because I know it's not a balance. I mean, you're juggling these things and you make them fit or they need to fit. But how do you navigate it and show up in excellence in all of those?
So it sometimes is seasonal.
Okay.
So it could be a full season where certain things are less priority than others, and I'm able to tap into one more. So my father is an analogy person, and as in my older age now, I have started to become an analogy person like him as well. So I think of it like an equalizer.
Okay.
Everything can't be all on one level because then the sound is off. So you have to adjust the volume, adjust the levers for different things in order to tap into what you need in that given season. So right now, my current season, I'm focusing on my books and the gym.
Okay.
Other things are a little bit lower on the equalizer, but they're still there.
Okay.
Just not as much of that effort every given day.
Okay, I like that analogy. So then you just kind of adjust it when you hear a certain sound. It needs to ramp it up a little bit. Okay, that's good. So which of your talents or your skill sets did you kind of hone in on first?
Good question. My sales skills.
Okay.
Yes. So, and that started at an early age. First job was me selling to my parents to be the one folding clothes and folding socks in the laundry. And I started billing my dad for however many loads he had and getting paid off of that.
Okay.
And then that transitioned to me start having my first job in sales, working with T-Mobile and other kind of sales associate roles. And now that's almost what I do on a regular basis. Is I've kind of managed the the sales and retention portion at the gym.
Okay.
So I'm consistently in that space, which is actually not something that I fed into too much initially. I was more so thinking that I was always going to be in the finance or numbers lane, but really leaning more into connection, really communicating with people on a regular basis. That's the part that I like to feed into a lot.
Well, when you actually think about it, though, being good at sales or being good at closing is really connecting with people. The psychology behind it, it's interconnected. You can't have greatness in sales without being able to connect with people.
Right.
So it's hand in hand. Now, isn't it ironic, now, in hindsight, that sales is an important skill to have, like, in business and entrepreneurship? Like, you don't really think about it in that way. Maybe when you were working at T-Mobile, you never okay, I'm going to need this when I start a business.
Right.
But I bet you that job gave you a lot of reps in how you connect with people, how you market a product so that it meets whatever they're looking for.
Yep.
Wouldn't you agree?
100%. It's finding that commonality with someone, that relatability, that it's no longer feeling like you're trying to sell something.
Absolutely.
It is truly, I'm just having this organic conversation and we're finding where your need is. And can I help meet that need?
Absolutely. Because sometimes, like even in the financial industry where I am, when you're talking to people about what I do, and people are interested in starting a business and you're trying to, kind of relate, okay, this is what we're doing. Well, I'm not good at selling. Well, are you good at people? Do you have people skills? Because literally I'd never feel like I'm in sales, because now if you even transition, like how I feel like I'm transitioning my skill set from healthcare, how I related to people, how I figured out how to dumb something down or make it relatable to where any person, regardless of their age, they can understand what I'm talking about. And if I'm helping them understand what I'm talking about, and what I'm talking about is meeting their needs, then a transaction occurs just because they understand it. That's sales.
100.
But you're actually just getting people what they need.
Exactly. And that can be translated into any space. I think the part where it was the challenge for me initially was if you're selling something that you don't believe in.
That's true. Yeah. That you can't translate it, because then it comes off as inauthentic, and then like the person you're talking to can sense the discomfort
They know it's more for me than it is for them getting something out of this transaction.
I like to think good sales is serving, because regardless of what you're quote unquote selling, it is out there because there's a market for it.
Right.
And if you understand the market and you understand the product, then you know who you need to be talking to about that product and why. So that's good. Now, how do you feel like that fits in your fitness space?
So I would say it's easy because of course, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis, and I know why you need fitness in your life. The hard part is, it's like, why should I have to convince anyone that you need fitness? Like this is a given. It's just like water, breathing. Like this is a necessity of life. But it's some of those most basic things that we overlook or we take for granted. So knowing that what I am currently living and breathing is what I'm actually selling, that makes the translation so much easier. And just getting the reps in of talking to different types of people to find out what is it that people are truly struggling with, and how can I best help? Because my ultimate goal is to help reduce the prevalence of all these lifestyle related diseases in our communities. So the more people I can talk to and get them bought into that, then I'm all for it.
That's so good. So when you say that you feel like your challenges, Like, why do I have to convince someone? I've often felt that challenge as well. And I work intentionally on how to overcome that challenge because that thought that why should I convince you becomes a barrier to me growing beyond that. Now, what do you do to grow beyond that as you convince people that, hey, you need fitness?
So it's realizing everybody's journey. And I have to go back to where I was at one point. Fitness has not always been my life.
Yeah.
I had no interest in anything fitness related probably at this point 20 years ago. When I was younger, when I was in college, really it wasn't until after college where I started taking health seriously. So it's me remembering, not forgetting where I was in that period, and anyone that I'm talking to, if they're struggling with understanding why this is important for them, I have to go back to old Ashley.
Okay.
And where were you at this point, and tap into that, and what were my needs, and what did I care more about, and finding that sticking point for that person that I can relate.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good. So in financial services, I created a financial literacy firm because I realized that education was a key point to helping a person find themselves, find that sticking point themselves. Because in my mind, I'm like, why should I convince you to want to know how to understand your finances?
Yeah.
Why should I convince you to create an estate plan? Why should I tell you you should protect your family? Like, you know that you should do that. And like you said, you began to see, like, okay, I wasn't always literate in that space either. So what made it click for me? It was education, learning more about it. And so that's why when I meet with people, let's talk about this, the why, the how, and what's important to you. And I hear that's what you're saying in fitness. Okay. Now, what do you think as far as your background, your knowledge, and your experience in all of the things we've discussed thus far, you're going to implement moving forward and grow into like a better platform so that people can understand, okay, from your standpoint, I need fitness just like I'm breathing. How are you going to help the next person realize that thought or that?
So the lane that I'm taking it now, and really my focus is trying to tap into the next generation before it becomes so far gone.
Gotcha.
So that's why I've transitioned into writing children's books that speak to fitness, speak to healthy eating, because if you can see it younger and get excited about it early on, it's so much easier conversation later on, and it just becomes maintenance as opposed to
That's so good.
Now trying to fix what's been broken for several years.
Absolutely. So you said it earlier anyway that your goal is to kind of help reverse or prevent some of these lifestyle diseases, and it's literally a lot of the chronic illnesses that exist in the world is due to lifestyle, and the modifications of those, especially in adulthood, could literally stop the progression of all of these chronic illnesses, and then add fitness to it, then it reverses it.
Right.
And so when you catch that lifestyle early on, before it becomes a real habit or lifestyle, then you don't have to do as much modification.
Right.
That's really good. That's a good idea. Like, what inspired you to do that? Like, how did you get there?
So I had a coworker that wrote a children's book around finances. I loved seeing everything that she was doing, and she had just put the bug in my ear that everybody has a story that the next generation could benefit from. And thinking on that, I knew I loved reading when I was younger, cared nothing about health and wellness, but I thought about it. If there had been a book that had something exciting, interesting about fitness, I might have picked it up.
Right.
I loved everything at the Scholastic Book Fair. I probably would have grabbed something like that if it was intriguing, if it had people that looked like me on it. So that sparked the idea for it, and really just having something that was engaging, interactive, that kids see it and they're like, oh, I'm excited now to do jumping jacks. I'm excited now to go eat some Brussels sprouts because I know what this will do for my body. I'm excited for this reason. And that, even though, the way it's written in the story, you might not have the superpowers that the story says, but you know that this is good for my body.
Okay.
And that then takes it up till the next level years later. I had hypertension, was diagnosed with hypertension when I was 18.
Okay.
And dealt with years of trying to figure it out, getting on blood pressure medicine. And I knew that I did not want to end up on medicine for the rest of my life just to survive,
Right.
just to live. And catching that earlier, had I not had years of, fast food and years of all the things that I was doing in college and shortly after that, I possibly could have avoided all of that. So I wanted kids to see what is good about healthy lifestyle right now, so we don't have to go through that later on.
That's really good. I like that. So you said you had hypertension. Did you reverse it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I've been off of blood pressure medicine for 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. I was fortunate to have a doctor because I definitely do not advise anyone to just stop taking the medication if you're given it. But I had a doctor that was willing to work through the process to help wean me off of it. So with lifestyle change, with me getting active, and with me changing my diet, it was really the diet change that made the biggest difference. I was working out a lot for the initial part of it, but I was still eating fast food every night and all the other things. But once I changed my diet, that helped, and I've been off of it and
That's
normal
good.
levels ever since.
Awesome. How long do you think it took you to change your lifestyle and reverse your hypertension?
Yeah. So it took about 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. It started out with, of course, I went straight on into fitness. I can have a one-track mind and go all in. So I was all in on the workouts. I was good on that. But getting my nutrition changed and really confident and comfortable in it and not going from a fad diet to something else and all of those things, that took about 6 years of really focusing and finding what worked for me. And after that, it was smooth sailing.
That's good. Now, if you're comfortable with answering, do you have a family history of hypertension?
Yes. So everybody, for the most part, except one aunt or two, has hypertension. That is what initially I was told when I was diagnosed, that it just runs in the family and just deal with it. But I was the youngest person in my family to have been diagnosed. Everyone else, they were well into their 40s before being diagnosed with it. So to me, that made no sense. It was like, yes, I understand this can run in the family, but I'm 18. This isn't something I should be dealing with right now. And I wasn't very much overweight. It wasn't anything visibly that most people would have thought.
Yeah.
So that's one point I always like to make sure people understand that you might look great on the outside, but make sure you know what's happening on the inside. But yeah, the lifestyle, that it was a few doctors that just weren't willing to do any deeper digging into it. So I was fortunate when I moved to Atlanta from the DC area to find a doctor that really wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, it's important to collaborate with your physician or your healthcare provider on your wellness and your health, because you're in control of it. And if you're working with the primary care provider or any type of provider that's not collaborating with you, you might not fare well. And so that's one thing to keep in mind. But also, I think your experience or you being diagnosed with hypertension at an early age is another reason why teaching people health and wellness as kids or early as possible is important. Because had you not been diagnosed early, you could have potentially damaged kidneys to where you can't reverse the hypertension.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that happens in families. And a lot of times when you hear there is a genetic predisposition for something, that could be because of epigenetics, meaning like how your genes change over time. But two, what families do all the time, what they
Right.
eat, what you've been conditioned to eat all the time, what you naturally have in your house to touch and put in your mouth can cause these things. And so that lifestyle changing and just understanding at an early age is super important. So I'm glad you're doing that. I'm glad that you have that in the book.
Thank
now,
you.
How much of nutrition do you cover?
Yeah, so it's very baseline, partially. So this book the first book is all fitness related, exercise.
Okay.
Super confident in that. When you start talking about nutrition, that's when you get people from all over the woodworks that want to dispute and chime in. And yeah, so I wanted to make sure, one, that everything in there was nothing that had, varying levels of science and varying levels of opinions about, and disclaimers that please consult a doctor before changing anything that your child is consuming. But it's baseline. It speaks on the vegetables that could give you certain benefits in order to perform better. So the basis of the story is at a field day.
Okay.
We love field day growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And the kids' parents end up, each one of the main characters, their moms end up putting a different ingredient into their breakfast that helps to give them a boost of some form of superpower to be able to win their events at the field day. So gets the kids excited about, oh, well, this might help. If this can help me do good in field day, then maybe I'll try it.
Oh, yeah.
So nothing too deep, but it does have recipes in the back of the book for you to be able to do together with the family, or for if any teachers or classrooms want to try out something for an activity. It's interactive in that sense.
I love that. I can't wait to get mine. I already ordered mine, so hopefully...
Yes, it's coming.
Okay, yes, I'm looking forward to it. Now, what's your vision for your books? Like, where are you wanting it to be sold? How do you want it to be sold? Who do you want to reach with this book, besides just young kids? But is it a certain population? Tell us.
Yes. So I, of course, want this in the face of children that look like us.
Okay.
To be all over the place, for them to see people that look like them in stories. I'm really targeting independent booksellers and stores. So I've looked up almost every Black and Brown owned bookstore across the country to solicit and reach out to and get connected with them, because that's where I want us to be front and center.
Gotcha.
I want us to be supporting our own and finding my books in those stores. Also bulk sales, meaning getting school districts, getting different community centers to order in large quantities.
Okay, that's good.
To be able to have them for children all over in different areas, to be able to check it out at the library.
Okay, good deal. Now, if somebody were to grant you a wish today for your books, I mean, how many copies would you want to have sold with that wish?
1,000.
1,000. Okay. You guys hear that? We need 1,000 copies sold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In the next month.
In the next month. If you want to buy 1,000 with one whop, hey, do that. If there's anybody out there that can do that, that's good. Now, what would help you do that faster? Like what would you need if you had to assemble a team?
Yeah.
And money wasn't an object, time wasn't an object. Like, what would you need to
really a solid PR team.
Okay.
That to solicit and reach out and make the connections, to make the follow-ups.
Okay.
The follow-ups is probably my struggle point of how many times should I be emailing this person if I haven't heard back yet? That part. And then just any school counselor, school administrator, teacher, anyone that's in municipalities, community centers, PTAs, basically those contacts. If I had a full list of 100 contacts, to run through, I think I can get to that number much easier.
That's good. So, a lot of times people, they don't really care about what you do as much until they know why you care about what you're doing or why you care about them. So what's your passion behind this book? I hear you say you want to specifically target people who look like us. Why? And what's your passion behind that?
Yeah. So I lost my grandmother when I was 10. And probably the most impactful person in my life.
Okay.
She had open heart surgery because of the stress that all of her medications was putting on her heart, and heart wasn't strong enough for the surgery.
Okay.
So as soon as I was diagnosed with hypertension, that triggered that as, I want to live long life. So making sure that more of our community are able to live a full life. Passing away in 60s, 70s, that's still young compared to many of the other cultures. So I just want to make sure that we have all the tools, have all the knowledge, have all the resources to be able to make the decisions that will give us longevity and a sustainable, enjoyable life.
I love that. And you say live a full life because it's all encompassing. Like what you do, what you eat, and the lack thereof determines the longevity of your life and the fullness of how you enjoy that life. And so I love that you've turned pain into passion and then you're putting something in the earth that will impact others. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
Now, as far as your message behind your books, what do you see? Is it a series or are you like, okay, what do you see it going?
So my intent it is now a series. The first book I wrote in 2020 had a little bit of a gap before this next one launched 2 weeks ago. My goal is to have a 3-part series and then to take it into a cartoon.
Okay. Good deal. I love that. Now, how do you get into the mode where you're getting ready to start a book? Like what motivates you to just sit down and write it? How do you do that alongside of everything else you're doing? Like how do you manage all of that?
That part, I take it in chunks now. So small bites. I had an amazing publisher that worked with me on the first book, and one tip she gave me when I was getting stuck on things or spending too much time rattling off was just take 10 minutes, put 10-minute blocks onto the calendar to be able to write anything down. Once something sticks, then I run with that. But I don't spend too much time every day working on it, just small chunks, 10 minutes every other day to get as much out as I can in that time frame and move things along. Otherwise, I'm spinning my wheels, spending too much time on a topic. And this book, the first draft is nothing like what ended up being released. Because with the first one, I was spending too long just sitting and trying to toil away and making something stick that wasn't working. Once I wrote something down, put it down, moved on, came back to it with a fresh brain, fresh mind, it flows so much easier. Yeah.
So you didn't overthink it.
Yeah.
Good deal. Now, believe it or not, so as you know, but just for the audience sake, I am a healthcare provider by trade. And one of the reasons I kind of got interested in finance as a primary care healthcare provider, I would hear a lot of my patients tell me, well, I don't have time to work out. I have to do this, do that. Single parents or women, especially people in our culture, they may not have time to figure out the healthy foods to eat or this and the other. And I was literally connecting the dots between health and wellness disparity and wealth disparity. Or like if I have someone that has a chronic illness, they're begging me not to send them to the emergency room because they can't afford it. But the reason they have a high blood sugar of 500 plus is because they're in a donut hole and their insurance is not covering their insulin. And so from that experience, real talk, like I would say, like something is up, something is wrong. Like everything we eat is causing us chronic illness, and then we have to work super hard to pay for the chronic illnesses and the medications and then all this kind of things. It's a revolving door
cycle.
of just illness, poverty, and I wanted that to change for people, because if we don't interrupt it, then we'll forever say that African Americans are the number one in cardiovascular disease, or the leading cause of hypertension is related to this and the other. And I wanted to do something about it. And I hear that that's what you're doing. You're doing something about that.
Yeah.
Now, what would you tell the average working class citizen that is super busy? They have a lot of competing priorities, and they want to be healthy, and they want to do something different, but maybe they can't find the time. Maybe they don't know what foods to look at. Like, what would you tell them to start?
I would tell them this one.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah.
It's a really common thing.
And it's the way we work in society. It does not afford you the time to really put towards that, especially if you're in that cycle of just trying to make ends meet, trying to, going from paycheck to paycheck and just trying to make for your family. So I would say don't spend all of your time trying to change everything at once. Focus on one small thing that you can change. If it's just taking your family out for a walk after you eat, focus on that, just moving a bit. If it's changing from fast food to having at least 2 meals at home when you had only maybe one meal that you cooked at home, do that. Just make one small change instead of trying to change everything all at one time.
That's good. That is how I advise my patients, to be honest. One thing I'll say, what is your vice? What's a common thing that you do every day that you love, but you want to decrease? Okay, let's cut that back by one day. Not every day, but one day. Or do you drink sodas? How many? Okay, let's bring that down from 3 to 2. And then the next week or the next follow-up, we go down from 2 to 1.
Right.
So I think that's solid advice, because it becomes overwhelming, and then it's not sustainable when you try to change everything at one time. I brought that up because that is something that every family or household is dealing with, because of society, because the pressures of trying to keep up with the economy, trying to overcome all of the pressures that come from lack of planning, and not even knowing we need to plan. And just sometime you wake up and then here you are and you're like, oh, this is a set of circumstances and I want to change it. And so a lot of times people don't know the first step, but I think that advice that you just gave gives people clarity. Take that first step, prioritize that one thing that you want to change, and do it a little bit at a time. Now, we talked a little bit about you in your books. We talked about how you connect your fitness and your wellness with that. How do you connect your finances, or you being an accountant, with all of that? Do you ever intertwine them, or like how do you connect it in your mind?
So a lot of it is how I'm able to kind of manage multiple things at once.
Okay.
Because I've dealt with managing multiple budgets, managing teams. So some of it is just the soft skills that I've acquired over my years working in finance, working in accounting. But I also do still provide tax compliance services. So I have a separate lane as well that I like to keep my finance in a bucket. But personally, it is really being able to use those soft skills to manage. If I can manage spreadsheets, I can manage all the other things.
Okay, that's good. Now, I don't know a lot of people that are kind of similar to us who prioritize, or that love health and wellness, and then also love finance. And I'm wondering if, how I just described how I've seen the connection or the intersectionality of them both. play a part in the longevity of life, to be honest, or the ability to live a full life. Have you ever thought about it in that way? And then when you talk to people, do you ever connect the dots for people
Yeah,
in that space?
absolutely. Because it's really your whole self. And if one thing is in alignment, everything else gets out of whack.
Absolutely.
If, just like we mentioned in terms of having the capacity to be able to make those changes, if your finances are out of whack, you don't even have the mental capacity to focus on the other things because you're just trying to get by. So it's all intertwined. It's all what allows you to have that full life, that sustainability, that longevity, and being able to enjoy your years and not just here.
What would you have to say about how the importance of budgeting and being healthy or well? Because sometimes healthy is just overcoming disease, but just wellness. What would you have to say about that?
It's critical. I would say budgeting, and this is something that I often equate when I'm speaking with clients from a nutrition standpoint. You have a budget that you're able to manage from a finance side. We have to be able to manage ourselves in the fitness space as well. So when people are apprehensive about tracking their nutrition, tracking their calories, or tracking what they're consuming, how do you know where you stand if you aren't keeping track of things?
Absolutely.
So we have to have some form of metrics that we're using, that we're targeting, in order to be able to see where we're going, where we've been, and to avoid making any of those previous pitfalls.
That's good.
Going forward.
I like to say budgeting is giving your money an assignment. And I think we as a people need to start prioritizing giving our money an assignment for wellness, whether that's for a fitness program or a trainer or the gym or our healthy diet. We have to put that in the budget. Now, as we wrap up, I want to ask a little bit more about you personally. What do you value?
I value family. I value my relationships, and just genuine people.
Okay, that's good. What does fulfillment mean to you?
Knowing that I left some mark on anyone that I touch, that I come in contact with, that they left better by knowing me.
Oh, I love that. What does wellness mean to you? Or what does that look like?
Being at peace.
Okay.
In every aspect.
I love that. What is the biggest lesson you've learned about money?
That it can afford you opportunities that you couldn't find elsewhere, but it can also rob you of things if you prioritize it too much.
I love that. And then what are the top 3 reasons you want to reach every goal that you set?
To leave an impact, to make my parents proud, and to see a better future for the generation coming behind us.
I love that. Last but not least, but what are you most grateful for?
For every opportunity to get better. Just for the opportunity to learn, to grow, and make new experiences. I'm in a new city, and I feel like I've been embraced. So I'm just grateful for that, for being able to come into a new place and not feel like I'm completely starting over.
I love that. Now, tell the audience how they can reach you, whether it's your website, social media, so on and so forth.
Yes. You can find me on Instagram at Clarke, CLARKEAYYE, and at author Ashley Clarke. That's Clarke with an E. And on Facebook, full name Ashley Clarke. And then my website, yourhealthmattersllc.com. You can find my books on that same site.
Awesome. Thank you so much for gracing the Philo.Wsophical Matter Podcast. Guys, this is my passion with this podcast, to get great people to share their experiences, their thoughts, their passion, and to put good information out in the world. So if you heard something today that you loved, or if you learned something, click like, subscribe, comment, share this with someone you love, because I really feel like somebody can grow from this. I love the value that you brought, and hopefully we get to bring more value. Thank you guys for taking your time out for Philosophical Matter Podcast. We're going to have more guests, amazing speakers, leaders, entrepreneurs. So stay tuned for the next episode.